Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 7 of the anime series, Grimgar, Fantasy and Ash, and good for them. Good for the crew. Having gone behind Mary's back and found out about her history and realizing how, much a sort of common situation they've been through, a little more excessive on Mary's part. Good for Haruhiro and everybody coming together and wanting to accept her into their sort of little unit and everything. Even if I would argue that a large part of the familiarity, the friendship they have between each other is, largely it feels unearned. At least I, as a viewer, I don't feel invested enough in everything they've been going through, and I haven't seen it on display, them really getting to know each other and learning who each other is and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we've seen them in battle, learning, strategizing, and how best to utilize everybody in the party, Yume and everything like that, what their skills are, and they have been building up their intake of coinage funds to get new armor and new helmets, and they're racking up the abilities and everything like that. And that's great. That's awesome. I just don't feel like I know them personally. I don't know them as characters. I don't know them as people, and I haven't seen enough to really believe that they are that familiar with each other. We kind of had that revelation that they're introverted, very much, and it's hard for them to really kind of get to know each other, and you would think that would then mean we would see some more growth along those lines, and it's just like everything has just kind of remained a status quo, not really feeling like these characters are well familiar with each other. They're just kind of, I was imagining, because I'm somebody who has to take the bus everywhere, to go out shopping, to get errands, done and everything like that. And I was imagining just waking up one day at the bus depot and having, 12 people around me, or 6 people around me that I've never met before. Maybe my sister's there, and waking up and realizing, I have this fleeting sense of I've been here before, I was taken from somewhere. The whole world surrounding me is unfamiliar, and I don't know who these people are. And just out of the happenstance of now the requirement being that I have to kill other living creatures that aren't quite human, but they're humanoid, and I have to kind of turn a blind eye to that, and I have to murder these creatures, and I have to worry about getting silvers and golds and coppers and getting sort of an artillery built up, and I have to put my faith and trust into the people who are in the same boat as I am, and only through sort of an extension of being in the same boat like that with these strangers, do we kind of come together and we kind of try to get to know each other. But if we're not really communicating very much, or at least it's not being displayed that we're communicating that much and really understanding each other, I mean, that's kind of the framework, the backdrop of this series. And now we're 7 episodes in, and only now is this group coming together and trying to make a friend of the Mary character because of how similar their backstories are in this world, the losses, and all of the emotional torrent of that whole scenario. And, it's just really, it's interesting. It's like, good on you for trying to be better people, trying to be good human beings, and trying to welcome her into your, I can't call it a family, this little familial unit. I can't really refer to it as that because I don't believe that's what it is. I have no reason to believe that's what it is. And, the characters seem like they care about each other. And okay, we had a great moment between Haruhiro and Yume when that whole idea of being introverts came to the fore, and the loss of Monoto and all this kind of stuff. Like, the loss of Monoto, they felt for him, but I don't feel like they really knew him, and I didn't really know him as a viewer, and having sustained losses familially in my life, my parents, my grandparents, things of that sort, I can understand how you would have this bond that could grow out of that mutual loss. And I don't see these characters really sitting around getting to know each other enough, and making sort of extroverted maneuvers to take care of each other and to really communicate with each other. I mean, again, 7 episodes in, and only now is Haruhiro starting to realize that Arenta does not like being the butt of everybody's joke, that he doesn't like everybody not taking him seriously. He is a very, sort of chip on his shoulder, loud-mouthed, persona. That's his character. He's very much a jerk, and he's unlikable, and they they never got rid of him. They're being in support of him. They're keeping him in the group, I guess. They've never really gotten to know him. They really haven't had any reason to, they probably don't know the ins and outs of what is going on for, everyone in the group. Nobody is mutually associated with anyone else at this point, it feels like to me, to know of, what's going on internally and what somebody's motivations are. I mean, the only thing that we really have is, the big lug, big moose, as I call him, Moguzo, or whatever the hell his name is. I still haven't quite learned it, who does the wood carving. This is something that speaks to his personality. He's an artist. He's a dreamer. He's very sort of reserved. He's not somebody who wants to have to go out and fight, even though he is the big guy in the group. He's the big lug, he's the sweet bear and everything like that. Whereas in other sort of groups and everywhere else we've seen, like in the tavern, you see these big hulking guys, and these are the bad guys. These are the tough guys. Bad meaning, not like they're actually villains, but they're badass. They're the tough guys, and they'll beat you down if you come at them with some smarmy language or whatever like that. And Big Moose is different. But he wears it on his sleeve, this passion to create, and he's a cook too. And these are things that speak to the personality of his character, and so we know things about his character. Thus far, we've only really seen all the other characters in battle. We've had some uncomfortable, weird, borderline fan service, shots of the girls' butts. We know they have butts. We know one, doesn't like being called flat-chested. The other one doesn't like being called fat. And she's rather timid, and they're all introverts. And, what else do we know about them? What else do they know about each other? I guess because the show tells me they know things about each other, I should just take it for granted that they do. I should just take for granted that there is a closeness, there is a familial bond, out of an extension of being shoehorned into this scenario. And that leads me to a speculation for how this show is going to end, because we have another, Monoto sequence, ghost Monoto sequence between Haruhiro and Monoto. And at this point, it was kind of rubbing me the wrong way. Like, is he crazy? Has he completely lost it? If he's going to keep having these visits and it's not like a Force Ghost Star Wars thing, it kind of does make me, worry for Haruhiro. That maybe he's losing his every last nerve in everything he's dealing with. I don't know. But making the most of your companionship and the people you have around you, the people you consider friends, even though I beg to question, how these characters, how close they really are and all that kind of stuff. Because that is the strong sort of penchant in this episode, it kind of left me wondering, well, what would this show do for a happy ending? A sort of bittersweet ending, if you will. And I began to speculate, and I'm kind of putting it out there as a loose prediction, unless they really sort of flip things on its ear, and they make it kind of a, like a shocking twist ending, which, builds and leaves off like, come back for season 2. I don't want to come back for season 2. Like something along those lines. What would be an affirming, happy ending? And with all this time spent really mulling over the loss of Monoto and trying now to connect with Mary and her losses and everything like that, just watch this series either pits all of the main characters against an adversary they cannot hope to meet head on, and they're all wiped out. Or maybe just Haruhiro, because he is the narrator. He's kind of the main character, the main focus, because he is the one imparting everything that's going on. He's kind of leaving all the wrong things in the story and taking out the things I really want to know about. But because he is kind of the focus, the focal point, I began to wonder if not the group, him in particular, watch these characters meet an adversary they cannot hope to quell, and their lives are taken. And in their lives being taken, very much, we don't know in the framework of this series, because they don't impart this all-important information, whether this is a dream world, whether this is heaven and they're already dead, whether they've somehow physically been transported into this world, if these physical bodies are their real bodies, if it's a virtual reality hybridization, mechanizing the soul and the essence and commingling them. I don't know what the backdrop of this series is. So I don't know if it's kind of like the Sword Art Online thing, touching upon that once again, where if these characters die in this Grimgar fantasy environment, will they die in the world they left behind? We don't know. I don't know what any of that is. And because I feel like that is such a crucial amount of information that we should have, we should know. Well, maybe the affirming twist is going to be these characters die and they reawaken as if through heavenly divination, into the world they left behind, this probably contemporary modern day Earth backdrop. And, watch Haruhiro wakes up after being killed, and here is Monato. The real Monato, his manifestation. Once he was killed in the Grimgar world, he awakened, and now he's been keeping vigil, watching over all of the other characters or something along those lines. And I feel like, what a tremendous cop-out that would be if that's where it's going, if that's what it's building toward. Because I can't grasp why they would drop so many occasions throughout the course of this series in hinting that these characters came from somewhere else. I understand the crux of the story is supposed to be these characters coming together, forming a bond through extreme hardship of the scenario that, they find themselves now surrounded by. And to certain extents, I feel for them. I don't feel like I've gotten to know them enough. I don't believe that they've gotten to know each other enough. I feel that lack of investment. While I did strongly feel for Mary and her plight and them reaching out to her, and I was thinking to myself, why aren't more human beings like this? Why can't more people be like this? Make an extension of friendship to people. Try to be empathetic, And that's the thing I don't think people understand with me. I tend to be very empathetic. I can very easily put myself into the minds and sort of the feelings of characters. It's not very hard for me. And this show has been a singular case where I don't know where these characters are coming from. I don't know enough about them to gauge who they are as people, whether they're genuine or not, and all these kinds of things. I am moved by their trying to, create a bond and a unit and be there for each other, but I don't see enough of it on display to believe in them or know who they are, and, that kind of thing. And so from an empathetic point of view, I feel resounding and sort of resonating with the plight that these characters in their losses, what they've gone through. Much more for Mary than everyone else, because they just lost Monato, and I don't even know if they knew him that well. All they knew is he was their priest. He was kind of their leader. What he's basically imparting to Mary. He's kind of like one of the tanks of the group and everything like that, as well. And he would heal them even just at a scratch. They didn't really understand. That's the whole crux. They didn't understand what they were putting him through, what he was necessarily thinking. None of these characters knows what the others is necessarily going through or thinking. We've had moments where they've come together. We've had moments where, again, Haruhiro and Yume, they had this very poignant, revelatory moment between themselves. And everything just went back to status quo. Now we have in this episode a very revelatory sort of, co-op between their reaching out to Mary and saying, we've gone through it too, and you can be our friend. We consider you a friend. And at least now they've given her, she says, not just yet. She basically leaves them open, not quite yet. I need to be ready. I need to come to this on my own terms. And at least now they give her the time, now that they've gone behind her back and gotten the information, which I really feel like with how internal she has been and not wanting to attach to people, she, at least I would think certain people would not appreciate them seeking information, personal, private information that she wants to hold private, behind her back like that. Maybe that's just me. Even if it is meant for the betterment of them as a group, as a unit, and including her in it. It just seems a little astounding to me that there's no repercussions yet. But that whole scenario, it's just like, I feel for her. I feel for her and I feel for them to a point, but I don't know what the direction of the story is. I don't know what the point of the story is. I don't feel that I've seen enough connectivity between the characters amongst themselves as a viewer to the characters. I don't feel like there has been enough to warrant this rock ballad montage. I don't feel like there has been enough to warrant their coming together and treating each other so familiarly when they have to admit they're up against the wall with Ranta, that other co-op half. Even now, nobody's really communicating with or getting to know him. And so, at least for me, it's hard to grasp onto, even as somewhat of an empathetic soul. It's hard for me to have any resignation to these characters coming together, any belief in these characters coming together, because I would want to at least try to make efforts in getting to know somebody. What are your passions? What are your dreams? What are your hopes? What are your fears? Communication. Even if you're an introvert, especially if you're an introvert, and you're put into a shoehorned life or death scenario like this, even if you're uncertain, especially if you're uncertain about where you hailed from, where you came from before, I'm very much about living in the day, in the moment, not spending too much time being weighed down by the past or what is yet to come. And from that point of view, I get it. Let's focus on the here and now. But I would love to see much more leaps and bounds being taken in trying to become interpersonally connected to the people you're surrounded by. I don't feel enough of that. I have watched this series from episode 1, and I have only maybe seen 3 moments in 7 episodes where characters have come together. In this kind of framework, in this kind of backdrop, that's outlandish to me. This whole episode feels like it should have been in episode 2 or episode 3 of the series. You could have condensed everything meaningful into the first episode or first and second episodes and made this about finding our footing in the world. Everything has been so long-winded and has taken so much time. When you have dialogue that is non-directional, does not lead to any sort of gratification or culmination, when you have dialogue, an example in this episode, goblins, 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 somebody wrote that. Somebody was paid to write that. I would rather see dialogue of these characters getting to know each other. What are your hopes? What are your dreams? What are your fears? What is your favorite food? What is something you love? What's your favorite anime? Why do you like this anime? Why do you dislike this anime? I haven't seen anything like that in this series. I just have to, be passive and take it for granted. The show promises me this is the connectivity of the characters. I haven't seen it, but because it promises me that's what I should believe, well, then I'll believe it. Well, no. And, yeah. So I guess we will see where we go from here. It's such a befuddling, perplexing series. And it's one where I just feel like, yes, it's very much a level of being objective, but also there's very much, I can only speak to my own reaction to things. I can only speak to my own, impressions of it and my own feelings and thoughts of it, my own tastes. And I've never once said, you're an idiot or you're a moron or you're stupid or whatever, baka, if you like this series. Rather have I asked, what is it about the series you feel connected to? Why do you feel connected to these characters if you are a fan of this series? And nobody answers the question. So, if you love the series, let me know in the comments below why that is. if you feel that there have been examples of these characters coming together that exist beyond the moments I noted where, we had that great, poignant, heartfelt moment between Haruhiro and Yume, in the loss of Minato, in strategizing and coming together in the defeat of goblins, if there's something that exists outside of that, between episode 1 and this episode of Current, where you feel that these characters have gotten really genuinely to know each other and care about each other, be concerned about each other, to the point of risking their lives for each other, and they're familiar enough with each other to know the inner workings of, I mean, at this point, it feels like calling them introverts is just an excuse for the poor writing, the poor characterization. It should have been much more meaningful. It should have had something, given much more depth to them as people. And when you just kind of snap back into the status quo after making a revelation like that, even in the aftermath, do we still have no scenes where these characters are talking to each other, getting to know each other? Just as an extension of the plight they now find themselves in, are we to take it for granted that they care about each other and they feel like friends and whatever? Whatever. Whatever floats your boat. And so, yeah, otherwise that'll be it for me on this. We'll see you next time, whether I care, and catch y'all later. Peace.